A fig tree cursed by Jesus instantly withers. A divine miracle or a natural phenomenon? This intriguing Bible story challenges our understanding. Could biology possibly explain such a rapid transformation? Or is there something beyond science at play here? Prepare to unravel this mystery. The biblical narrative of the withered fig tree is one of the most enigmatic and debated episodes in the Gospels, with theological and scientific implications that resonate to this day. Found in both Matthew and Mark, the story presents temporal nuances that heighten its mystery. In Matthew, the withering is described as instantaneous, a shocking revelation occurring on the same day as the curse. The disciples are amazed to see the tree withered overnight. In Mark, the tree is noted as being withered from the roots up the following day, a description that emphasizes the totality and profoundness of the plant's death. Regardless of the exact temporal precision, the crucial point is the surprising and drastic speed of the event. Jesus, finding no fruit on the fig tree when he expected some, utters a curse, and the result is an incredibly rapid and complete death of the plant. This is not the slow, gradual decay expected of a diseased tree, a process that would typically take weeks or months. It is an almost abrupt collapse, a dramatic and startling transition from vibrant life to complete desolation. For the disciples who witnessed the event, and for billions of readers and believers throughout history, the instantaneity and completeness of the withering were the most impactful characteristics. Peter's exclamation in Mark, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed has withered," perfectly captures this amazement and surprise, almost bordering on disbelief at something so sudden. This reaction is at the heart of the traditional interpretation. The event is unequivocally a miracle, an undeniable demonstration of Jesus' supernatural power over nature, a tangible proof of his divinity, and, fundamentally, a profound and impactful symbolic teaching. The fruitless fig tree is often interpreted as a metaphor for spiritual barrenness, whether of an individual, a people, especially Israel, which for many failed to recognize the Messiah and produce fruits of righteousness and faith, or faith without works. The curse, viewed in this light, would not be an act of thoughtless anger or frustration, but a living parable, a visual and dramatic lesson about unwavering faith, the importance of spiritual fruitfulness, and the severe consequences of unbelief and the absence of genuine spiritual life. However, it is precisely this celerity, this apparent break with the norm of natural decay, that piques the curiosity of the scientific mind and invites us to a deeper analysis. How can a tree, which is a complex and generally robust organism, wither so completely from the roots up in a matter of hours or a single day, challenging our usual understanding of biological processes? Plant biology teaches us that the death of a tree is, as a rule, a multifaceted process involving stages of gradual decline, progressive defoliation, and slow tissue deterioration extending over weeks, months, or even years, depending on the cause. The biblical narrative seems to defy this established norm, creating an apparent dissonance between the divine and the natural. It is this apparent contradiction, this gap between what faith asserts and what science observes in the physical world, that leads us to the core of our central theme: the withered fig tree, miracle or biology. We are faced with an event that perfectly fits the description of a miraculous intervention, an act of power that transcends natural laws, but which, at the same time, prompts us to explore whether modern science can offer a different perspective, one that does not necessarily negate the miracle, but perhaps contextualizes it or even illuminates it under a broader and deeper understanding of natural phenomena. Could what seems impossible to common human understanding actually have an underlying biological mechanism, even if extraordinary in its rapidity? This is the fundamental question that will guide us through the following chapters, seeking to unravel the complexities and possible interconnections behind this ancient event and its interpretations. In the vast and complex world of plant biology, the idea that a tree could succumb to a disease in an extremely short period of time might seem counterintuitive to most people, almost like science fiction. Our daily experiences lead us to associate plant disease with a slow, predictable decline. Yellowing leaves that gradually fall, branches that dry out over seasons, a gradual process of deterioration. However, the realm of pathogenic microorganisms, especially certain fungi and bacteria, holds surprises that can make us rethink this perception. There are in fact certain fulminant fungal and bacterial diseases that have the capacity to devastate a plant or even an entire forest with astonishing speed, impressively mimicking the instantaneousness described in the biblical account of the withered fig tree. Imagine a relentless and silent attack on the plant's vascular system, its artery of life, responsible for all circulation of nutrients and water. Fungi, such as those from the genus Verticillium or Fusarium, are globally known for causing the dreaded vascular wilts. These pathogens are cunning strategists. They invade the xylem, which are the specialized vessels that transport water, and dissolved minerals from the roots to all aerial parts of the plant, including leaves, branches, flowers, and fruits. Once inside the xylem, they proliferate rapidly, forming a dense biomass of mycelium or bacterial colonies that physically obstruct the flow of water. Think of it like a domestic plumbing system that suddenly becomes completely clogged with a thick, viscous substance. Water simply cannot pass to more distant points. The plant, then, is deprived of its vital water supply, and its cells, especially those in the leaves, lose turgor, wilt, and then dry out completely and irreversibly. Under ideal conditions for the pathogen, this collapse process can be remarkably swift, transforming a seemingly vigorous tree into a dry skeleton in a matter of days. In addition to physical blockage, many of these pathogens produce highly potent toxins that are released directly into the sap string, traveling throughout the entire vascular system. These toxins can cause direct and extensive damage to cell membranes and the walls of xylem vessels, leading to their necrosis and total loss of function. In some cases, the toxins also induce the plant's own production of gummy substances and tyloses, as a desperate attempt to isolate the pathogen and contain its spread. Ironically, this defense response of the plant, which in other circumstances would be beneficial, can, in situations of severe and widespread infection, drastically exacerbate the problem, as tyloses and gums also contribute to the clogging of the vessels, rapidly accelerating the plant's wilting and death, a true biological self-inflicted wound. A dramatic and widely studied example illustrating this capacity for rapid destruction is Dutch elm disease, caused by the fungus Ophiostoma ulmi. This disease is notoriously devastating and can kill a large tree in a matter of weeks, and in severe cases with high pathogen virulence, even within a few days, especially if the tree is already stressed or compromised by other factors. Another case is oak wilt, caused by Brachyella fagicerum, which can lead to the death of oak trees in just one growing season. And in some susceptible varieties, death is almost sudden, with leaves drying out at an accelerated pace. For fig trees, specifically fungi such as Ceratocystis fimbriata, which causes pitch canker disease and can rapidly kill seedlings. And even adult trees under severe stress, or some species of Phytophthora, can be incredibly destructive and fast-acting. The latter directly attack the roots and the base of the tree, compromising the water absorption system and the very anchorage of the plant, leading to a rapid and comprehensive collapse of the entire plant from base to top. The key to this astonishing speed lies in the intrinsic aggressiveness of the pathogen, the environmental conditions that favor its rapid proliferation, and crucially, the plant's prior state of health. A fig tree that was already under water stress, with nutritional deficiencies, compacted soil, or some imperceptible lesion that served as an entry point for the pathogen, would be a much more vulnerable target for a fulminant attack, unable to mount an effective defense before the damage became irreversible. Thus, what seems instantaneous and miraculous to human eyes can be the culmination of an aggressive infection that reaches its critical point rapidly, leading to the total collapse of the plant. By connecting these complex and observable biological phenomena to the central theme, we begin to see how nature, in its often underestimated and impressive complexity, can orchestrate events that remarkably resemble the instantaneousness perceived in the biblical miracle, opening a new and fascinating lens through which to interpret the mystery of the fig tree without disregarding faith. To truly grasp how a fig tree could wither so rapidly as to shock observers and be interpreted as a miracle, we need to delve into the internal, highly sensitive physiological mechanisms that govern the life and, consequently, the death of a plant at a cellular and molecular level. When we speak of rapid and complete drying, we are referring to a catastrophic and widespread dehydration, leading to the immediate and irreversible collapse of all vital functions of the plant. The primary system involved in this life and death process is the plant's vascular system, an intricate and highly efficient network of plumbing that acts as the plant's circulatory system, composed primarily of xylem and phloem. The xylem is the true protagonist here, being the specialized conductive tissue responsible for the upward transport of water and dissolved minerals from the roots to all aerial parts of the plant, including leaves, branches, flowers, and fruits. It is the vital link connecting the soil, a source of nutrients and water, to the canopy, where photosynthesis occurs. In the scenario of an aggressive fungal or bacterial infection, like those we explored in the previous chapter, these pathogens have developed incredibly efficient and devastating strategies to sabotage the xylem. For example, they can proliferate rapidly within the xylem vessels themselves, forming a dense and sticky mass of mycelium or bacterial colonies that physically obstruct the flow of water. Think of it like a domestic plumbing system that suddenly becomes completely clogged with a thick, viscous substance. Water simply cannot pass to more distant points. The plant, then, is deprived of its vital water supply, and its cells, especially those in the leaves, lose turgor, wilt, and then dry out completely and irreversibly. Under ideal conditions for the pathogen, this collapse process can be remarkably swift, transforming a seemingly vigorous tree into a dry skeleton in a matter of days. In addition to physical blockage, many of these pathogens produce highly potent toxins that are released directly into the sap stream, traveling throughout the entire vascular system. These toxins can cause direct and extensive damage to cell membranes and the walls of xylem vessels, leading to their necrosis and total loss of function. In some cases, the toxins also induce the plant's own production of gummy substances and tyloses, as a desperate attempt to isolate the pathogen and contain its spread. Ironically, this defense response of the plant, which in other circumstances would be beneficial, can, in situations of severe and widespread infection, drastically exacerbate the problem, as tyloses and gums also contribute to the clogging of the vessels, rapidly accelerating the plant's wilting and death, a true biological self-inflicted wound. One of the most devastating phenomena that can occur in the xylem, and which would explain the rapidity of the withering, is cavitation-induced embolism. Imagine the column of water within a xylem vessel being pulled under great tension, like an extremely long straw from which one is sucking strongly. If this tension is excessive, or if there is damage to the vessels, air bubbles can form and expand within the vessels, breaking the continuous column of water. Once this air bubble forms, it completely prevents water flow in that vessel. Worse still, this embolism can rapidly spread to adjacent vessels through small perforations in the walls, creating a domino effect that leads to widespread and massive blockage of the vascular system. If a large number of vessels become embolized in a short period of time, the plant loses its ability to transport water on a massive scale. resulting in almost instantaneous wilting and drying of leaves and branches, as there is no longer any water to maintain the cellular turgor essential for life. Add to this scenario the crucial role of transpiration. Plant leaves continuously lose water to the atmosphere through tiny pores called stomata. This process is essential for pulling water from the soil through the xylem. However, if the xylem is blocked or damaged by pathogens or embolisms, the plant continues to lose water through its leaves without being able to replenish that volume. In a hot, dry, and windy environment, typical climatic conditions in parts of the Middle East, especially in spring when the fig tree story takes place, the rate of transpiration would naturally be high. This uncompensated water loss, combined with the inability to absorb and transport more water, would rapidly lead to severe dehydration, cellular collapse, and ultimately, the spectacular death of the plant's tissues. Therefore, the synergistic combination of an aggressive pathogen that damages and blocks the vascular system, the plant's own response, which can exacerbate the blockage, and environmental conditions that maximize water loss can create a scenario where a fig tree, even if robust under normal conditions, succumbs dramatically and rapidly, becoming a dry skeleton in a period of time that would seem miraculous to an untrained observer without access to this intricate physiology. This deeper dive into the plant's internal mechanisms solidifies the biological basis for the central theme, demonstrating that nature has its own ways, sometimes violent and swift, of orchestrating events that challenge our perception of time and pave the way for a scientific understanding of such a unique phenomenon. The fig tree, a tree of profound cultural, historical, and religious significance, present in mythologies, sacred texts, and cuisines around the world, is often associated with resilience and longevity. It is a species remarkably adapted to Mediterranean and semi-arid climates, capable of thriving in rocky, dry soils and even in rock crevices, and of recovering notably well after severe pruning, regrowing vigorously. Its tenacity and ability to survive in adverse conditions are legendary. However, it is precisely this apparent robustness, this expectation of life, and resistance that makes its sudden death, as described in the Bible, so shocking, enigmatic, and paradoxical for many. But, like every biological species, the fig tree possesses specific vulnerabilities that can be exploited by opportunistic pathogens, especially under certain stressful environmental conditions or during periods of physiological fragility. A crucial particularity of the fig tree, and directly relevant to the biblical narrative, is its peculiar fruiting cycle. In many varieties cultivated in the ancient Middle East, the fig tree produces what are called winter figs, which emerge in spring, usually before or concurrently with the full development of the foliage. These fruits are small, often inedible or of inferior taste, but their presence is an unequivocal sign of the tree's health and vitality, and the promise of a future harvest of larger, tastier fruits. The danim ripen in late summer and autumn, being the main and most valued harvest. In the biblical account, Jesus looks for fruit on the fig tree. It was not the season for true figs, which suggests that he expected to find the winter figs, which should have been present. The absence of even these initial fruits, which would indicate the tree's productivity and health, might have been a sign of its internal barrenness or an already compromised state of health, even with an outward appearance of green foliage. A fruitless tree might not necessarily be a dead tree, but a diseased, unproductive, or already significantly stressed tree, unable to fulfill its biological reproductive purpose, and, therefore, useless to the grower. Focusing on the specific vulnerabilities that could lead to such rapid withering, fig trees are, in fact, susceptible to a range of aggressive and fulminant fungal and bacterial diseases. Besides the vascular wilts already mentioned, root and crown rot caused by fungi like Rhizoptonia solani, Pythium spp, or the formidable Armillaria malea is particularly devastating and rapid. These fungi directly attack the root system, the vital anchor in the mouth of the tree, responsible for absorbing water and nutrients from the soil. If the roots are rapidly destroyed or their functionality is severely compromised, the tree's ability to absorb water from the soil ceases abruptly. In moist, clayey, compacted, or poorly drained soils, the proliferation of these fungi can be incredibly rapid and widespread, leading to generalized wilting and the death of the entire tree in a matter of days. Imagine a tree that, outwardly, still appears healthy and vigorous with its green leaves and a full canopy. But beneath the earth, its roots are being silently and rapidly consumed, severing its supply of life. The final collapse can be sudden and shocking to an untrained observer who has no access to the subsurface condition. Another crucial point is the anatomical and physiological structure of the fig tree itself. Although its leaves are large and efficient at photosynthesis, they also have a high transpiration rate, especially in hot and dry climates. If the water supply to these leaves is abruptly interrupted, this large leaf area becomes a sponge that rapidly loses water to the atmosphere without being able to replenish it. This uncompensated water loss leads to massive and accelerated dehydration of all plant tissues. Furthermore, latex, the white milky sap characteristic of the fig tree, while acting as an initial defense against herbivores, is not effective against internal vascular pathogens and, in some cases, may even serve as a medium for spore dispersal if the plant is already compromised. The analysis of the fig tree itself, its unique physiology, its peculiar fruiting cycle, and its specific susceptibilities to pathogens and environmental conditions allows us to go beyond a generic fungal disease explanation. It helps us understand why the fig tree, in particular, could be a target for such rapid and total collapse under the right conditions. This deeply enriches the central theme, offering a biological explanation that is not only plausible, but also specific and detailed for the species in question, connecting the tree's natural vulnerability to its mysterious and dramatic withering without disregarding its symbolic meaning. This perspective allows us to see how biology, in itself, can be as surprising as any narrative. For a truly holistic understanding of the fig tree's withering from a biological perspective, it is indispensable to delve into the climatic and environmental conditions of the ancient Middle East, the natural arena where the biblical event unfolded. This region is classically characterized by a Mediterranean climate with well-defined and contrasting seasons, long, hot, and extremely dry summers, and short, mild, and concentrated rainy winters. This seasonality imposes significant water stress on vegetation for much of the year, even for well-adapted species like the fig tree, which possesses deep roots and an extensive root system to seek water from underground reserves and optimize absorption during dry periods. Imagine a fig tree that, despite appearing vigorous and having green foliage on the outside, was silently suffering from chronic water stress. This could be due to a longer than usual drought in previous years, intense competition for water resources with other surrounding plants, compacted soil that hinders water penetration, or even some subsurface damage to its roots caused by rodents, compaction, or construction work that compromised its absorption capacity. A plant under stress, whether due to lack of water, nutritional deficiencies, insect attacks, or other abiotic factors, has its immune system significantly weakened and its defense capacity reduced. Just as stressed humans are more susceptible to colds and infections, a debilitated tree becomes a much easier target for opportunistic pathogens, which under normal conditions of full vigor would be easily combated or kept under control by the plant's defense system. It's as if the tree had already lowered its guard. Now, let's just consider a more dynamic scenario ripe for rapid death. What if a period of atypical or intense rainfall preceded the fig tree event, especially outside the heavy rain season? While rain is vital for plant life, excessive soil moisture, particularly in clay-heavy and poorly drained soils, which are common in some parts of Judea and Galilee, prone to localized flooding, can create ideal conditions for the explosive proliferation of fungi that cause dreaded root rot, such as Phytophthora or Pythium. These fungi thrive in anaerobic environments that form due to soil waterlogging, as excess water displaces air from soil pores, suffocating the roots and making them more vulnerable. After this wet period, if intense and sudden heat struck the region, this would create the perfect storm for disaster. The heat would drastically accelerate the fungi's metabolism, intensifying their attack on the fig tree's roots, which would already be compromised by excessive moisture and lack of oxygen. At the same time, the heat would dramatically increase the fig tree's transpiration rate, leading to a massive and accelerated loss of water from its leaves. If its roots were severely compromised by fungal rot and unable to function, the tree would be incapable of absorbing and replenishing this water loss, resulting in extraordinarily rapid dehydration and death. It's a multi-pronged attack where the environment acts as a cruel and efficient catalyst. This intricate interconnection between climatic conditions and the plant's biological predisposition is a central and crucial theme in modern phytopathology and forest ecology. Today, with global climate change, we observe alarming similar phenomena on a massive scale. Entire forests rapidly succumbing to pests and diseases due to prolonged droughts followed by extreme heat waves, or milder winters that fail to eliminate pathogen populations, leading to devastating outbreaks. Forest dieback is a serious contemporary problem, where seemingly healthy trees collapse en masse due to a combined stress of biotic and abiotic factors. By applying this scientific lens to the biblical event, the curse of the fig tree can be reinterpreted not as an isolated, unprecedented, or totally inexplicable event, but as the confluence of biological and environmental factors that converge for a rapid and dramatic death, coinciding impressively with divine intent. This perspective not only does not disqualify the symbolism or faith behind the event, but offers a profound and scientifically grounded explanation for the central theme, showing how nature, under certain specific conditions, can orchestrate events that remarkably resemble a miracle, enriching our understanding of both the phenomenon and its broader meaning. Our investigative journey into the withered fig tree has led us to explore the depths of plant biology, uncovering complex and surprising mechanisms that could, in theory, explain the remarkable rapidity of the event. We discuss the aggressiveness of vascular fungi that can literally suffocate the plant, the specific vulnerabilities of fig trees to certain pathogens and stress, and the crucial role of the ancient Middle Eastern climate, which could have created a predisposing environmental scenario for sudden collapse. Science, with its tools of rigorous observation, laboratory analysis, and the formulation of verifiable hypotheses, indeed offers plausible and well-founded explanations that describe how a tree could succumb so rapidly and completely. Our current biological knowledge allows us to glimpse a possible chain of natural events that would lead to such an outcome. However, it is crucial to recognize that the pursuit of a purely biological explanation, no matter how robust, coherent, and detailed, does not necessarily, nor should it attempt to, negate the profound dimension of mystery, meaning, and theological interpretation that permeates the biblical narrative. The gospel account is not limited to describing an isolated natural event. It intrinsically embeds it within a context of divine action and purpose. The fig tree is directly cursed by Jesus, and its death is presented as an immediate and direct consequence of this intervention, a deliberate act. For the disciples who witnessed the event, who lacked modern, phytopathological knowledge, and for billions of believers throughout history, the event is unequivocally a miracle, an undeniable demonstration of Jesus' supernatural power, tangible proof of his divinity, and fundamentally, a a profound and impactful symbolic teaching. The unproductive fig tree is often interpreted as a metaphor for spiritual barrenness, a warning about divine judgment, the importance of authentic faith, or the need for a life that produces spiritual fruits. Science can give us the instruction manual of how nature works, unraveling the laws and processes that govern it. But it rarely can explain the why of a specific event occurring at that precise moment and in that singular way, with such striking and exact coincidence with a conscious action or intention. Faith, on the other hand, operates in a different domain. It offers answers to existential and spiritual whys, dealing with ultimate purpose, the intrinsic meaning of existence, the supernatural, the transcendent, and the ineffable, but generally does not dwell on detailed physical mechanisms. It is here that the limits of human understanding become clearer, and the boundary between science and faith reveals itself as more porous and fascinating. Science operates in the realm of the observable, the measurable, the reproducible, and the predictable. It seeks patterns and laws that govern the material universe, constantly expanding our knowledge and our capacity to manipulate reality. Faith, conversely, transcends the purely material. It deals with a higher purpose, the intrinsic meaning of existence, the supernatural, the transcendent, and the ineffable. Reducing the fig tree event to a purely biological explanation, however convincing it may be in terms of mechanisms, may satisfy the analytical mind. But for many, it would neglect the rich tapestry of symbolism, theology, and deep spiritual meaning that the event carries at its core and that makes it so significant in religious history. Must we, therefore, necessarily choose one side? Is it a miracle or is it biology? Or can we contemplate the possibility that the universe operates in layers of reality that interpenetrate in ways our minds are still learning to comprehend? Perhaps Jesus' curse was not an act that violated the laws of nature, but one that coincided precisely with an ongoing biological process, directing it towards a dramatically rapid and symbolically charged end. After all, nature itself, in its astonishing complexity with its capacity to produce phenomena so intricate, surprising, and at times unsettling, is seen by many as a direct manifestation of the divine, a testament to the grandeur of a creator who acts through his own laws. The central theme of our exploration, the withered fig tree, miracle or biology, does not seek a definitive and exclusive answer that disqualifies one side in favor of the other. Instead, it invites a profound reflection on the coexistence of different forms of knowledge and interpretation. The withered fig tree continues to challenge us. It is a testament to the extraordinary complexity of nature and its potential for rapid events, a proof of the resilience and, paradoxically, the vulnerability of species. But it is also, and perhaps primarily, a reminder that there are dimensions of reality that may transcend our full capacity to comprehend and categorize, inviting us to a sense of continuous wonder at what can be and what remains beyond our immediate grasp. The fig tree story endures as a perennial invitation to keep an open mind, seeking knowledge in all its forms and recognizing that, in the grand scheme of things, between science and faith, much still eludes us and compels us to continue exploring the mysteries of the universe and existence. The story of the withered fig tree invites us to a fascinating and perennial dialogue between miracle and biology. We have seen how science can offer compelling explanations for seemingly supernatural events, revealing the incredible speed and complexity of certain natural processes. But regardless of the lens through which we view it, the fig tree reminds us that life and death, faith and science, often intertwine in mysteries that continue to fascinate us and challenge our deepest understanding. Does the truth lie in the harmonious junction of these two worlds, in a complementarity that enriches our perception of reality, or in a place that the human mind cannot yet fully unravel?